For almost 2,000 years, Revelation 13 has fueled fear and speculation. Its beasts and the mark are some of the most misunderstood symbols in the Bible. But what if most of us have been looking in the wrong direction, missing what this passage meant to its first readers? In the next 10 minutes, we will strip away modern myths and enter the pressured world of early Christians, uncovering what the beasts and the mark truly signified when survival and loyalty were on the line. The real story behind Revelation 13 may surprise you. In the cities of Asia Minor, daily life moved to the rhythm of Roman rule. Public squares echoed with the titles of the emperor. Domitian demanded to be called Lord and God. Suetonius records that he insisted on this honor, not as a distant formality, but as a test of loyalty woven into the fabric of civic life. In Ephesus, Pergamum, and Smyrna, altars rose in the marketplace, their inscriptions dedicating each stone to Deo Augusto Domitiano Augusto. These were not just monuments, they were checkpoints of allegiance. Participation in city festivals and trade was not optional. Guilds controlled access to work, potters, weavers, metal workers, all bound by rules that required public acts of devotion to the emperor. To join a guild or keep a stall in the marketplace, one often had to offer incense or a small sacrifice at an altar. Refusing to comply could mean losing the right to buy or sell, losing one's place in the community, or worse. In some cases, exclusion from guilds meant economic ruin. For many Christians, their faith put them on the outside, facing the threat of poverty for choosing not to participate in these rituals. The pressure was not only economic. Domitian's titles appeared on coins, official documents, and even at the entrance to public buildings. Municipal officials and local priests enforced these expectations, sometimes with written oaths or inscribed tablets confirming a person's devotion. In Pergamum, a marble inscription threatened imprisonment for anyone who refused the civic oath. Refusal could be interpreted as an act of treason, bringing legal penalties or exile. On the island of Patmos, John experienced this firsthand. Patmos served as a penal colony for those accused of political or religious dissent. Roman authorities could exile someone without a formal trial, sending them to live in isolation among other outcasts. For John and others, exile was a daily reminder of the cost of resisting imperial demands. This was the world facing the first readers of Revelation, an environment where every transaction, every festival, and every civic ritual pressed them to declare who they truly worshipped. The monsters and marks that fill Revelation 13 were not distant threats, but symbols that made perfect sense in a world where loyalty to the emperor was demanded at every turn. But when the pressure to conform was everywhere, how did these believers understand the strange beasts and warnings that followed? The answer lies in the symbols that spoke directly to their world. Revelation chapter 13 opens with a striking image, a beast rising out of the sea, covered in blasphemous names, with 7 heads and 10 horns. For John's first readers, this was not a riddle to be solved centuries later. It was a bold, almost dangerous parody of the world's most powerful empire. The chapter unfolds in 3 clear movements. The sea beast dominates the first 10 verses, the earth beast appears next, and the infamous mark and number close the chapter. Each part builds on the last, weaving together echoes from the Old Testament and the realities of Roman rule. The sea beast is not a random monster. Its features are borrowed straight from Daniel chapter 7, where 4 beasts represent 4 world empires: Babylon, Persia, Greece, and finally Rome. But John's beast is a composite. It has a leopard's body, a bear's feet, and a lion's mouth. This patchwork signals to anyone familiar with Jewish scripture that the empire they faced was the sum of all the world's oppressive powers, now embodied in Rome. The 7 heads would have been immediately recognizable. Rome famously claimed to be the city built on 7 hills, a symbol that appeared on coins and in poetry across the empire. Early Christian writers like Irenaeus saw the 7 heads as a shorthand for the imperial capital itself. The 10 horns, meanwhile, pointed to the empire's alliance of provinces and client kings. Under Domitian, 10 major regions, stretching from Gaul to Egypt, were governed by powerful officials who enforced Rome's will. These horns, crowned with diadems, were not only a sign of authority, but a reminder of the empire's reach and the local powers that propped it up. John's vision goes further. The beast receives its power from the dragon, a reference to Satan in the previous chapter. Its mouth speaks proud words and blasphemies, echoing the emperor's demand to be called Lord and God. The beast wages war against the saints for 42 months, a period that matches the span of Domitian's harshest measures against Christian dissent. For believers, the beast was Rome made monstrous, an empire demanding loyalty at the price of faith. But the story doesn't stop at the imperial portrait. The next figure in the vision brings the machinery of enforcement much closer to home, raising the stakes for every believer in Asia Minor. The machinery of imperial power worked at street level. In every city, local officials, magistrates, priests, and guild leaders acted as the hands and voice of the empire. Their job was to turn loyalty to Rome from a distant idea into a daily reality. Public festivals filled the calendar, each one centered around ceremonies that honored the emperor. At these gatherings, statues of Domitian or earlier Caesars stood at the heart of the ritual. Sometimes these images appeared to move or even speak, a result of hidden pipes, clever tricks, or the dramatic flair of the priests. Ancient writers like Pliny and Lucian tell of temples where statues seemed to breathe or give oracles, blurring the line between spectacle and miracle. For the crowds, these ceremonies felt alive. The city's leaders organized processions, sacrifices, and staged wonders that left little room for doubt or dissent. Participation was not just encouraged, it was expected. The message was clear. The emperor's image was everywhere, and honoring it was the mark of a good citizen. These public acts of worship shaped the thoughts and habits of the people, making loyalty to the empire a matter of routine. Before anyone even reached the marketplace, the earth beast's grip was already felt in hearts and minds. But for those who refused, the pressure would soon take on a more concrete form, one that touched every transaction and every meal. Buying and selling in the cities of Asia Minor was never just a matter of supply and demand. Every transaction carried a hidden test. Merchants lined up at the market gates, waiting for a sign that they belonged, sometimes a stamped token, sometimes their name on a guild list. Archaeologists have uncovered lead seals and pottery stamps from this era, each one a silent witness to the rules of commerce. These marks, though ordinary on the surface, separated those who conformed from those who refused. For many, access to the market depended on more than skill or reputation. It required visible proof of allegiance. In some cases, officials might demand a certificate or a stamped item as evidence that a person had honored the emperor. Without it, a merchant could be turned away, unable to buy grain, sell cloth, or keep a business afloat. The pressure was relentless. Compliance became the price of daily bread. The number 666, so often misunderstood today, was a code that first-century Christians could break. Using Hebrew gematria, the name Nero Caesar adds up to 666. For John's readers, this was not a random puzzle, but a pointed reminder. The system demanding loyalty had a name, and its reach extended into every corner of life. The mark was not just a symbol, but a practical barrier, one that forced each believer to decide where their true allegiance lay. But what happened when a person's faith put them on the wrong side of the market gate? The answer reveals the real cost of resistance. In the world of Revelation's first readers, every decision to resist the imperial cult came with a price. Refusal to join in public ceremonies or offer incense at the emperor's altar could mean being shut out of the guilds, cut off from work, and pushed to the margins of society. Some lost their livelihoods, others faced exile or imprisonment. Yet, for these early Christians, the question was not just about economics or survival, it was about allegiance. To accept the mark of the beast was to declare loyalty to the empire above all else. But John's vision offered a counterpoint. Those who refused the beast's mark bore instead the seal of the Lamb, a symbol of belonging to God even when the world stood against them. Writers like Ignatius of Antioch, writing from his own prison cell, urged believers to hold fast. He spoke of enduring the wicked ruler and remaining faithful to Christ, even when obedience to the state meant betrayal of the gospel. Irenaeus, a generation later, warned that the beast's mark was not just a physical sign but a test of worship, an outward symbol of an inward allegiance. For these witnesses, Revelation 13 was not a puzzle to be decoded, but a call to endure, to choose faith over fear, and to trust that God's seal mattered more than any mark imposed by the empire. The challenge for those early churches was clear. When every path seemed to demand compromise, would they bear the cost of faithful allegiance? This is the question that Revelation 13 pressed upon its first hearers, and the answer shaped the very heart of Christian witness. For early Christians, Revelation's warning was not about decoding the future, but about standing firm when faith collided with power. That challenge endures. In a world still shaped by competing loyalties, the real test remains. Who or what claims our ultimate worship? If you liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe.